So if we do run it back, that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about the Pat Riley presser. He was talking about availability is a big theme, and I don't know how we can change that or control that necessarily, right? Like, because if we did have more players available, not just Jimmy, Tyler, Caleb missed 15, Bam 12, like Kevin Love missed 20. Like if we had some of those guys during the regular season, we were only what was it, 4 games from the second seed, 2 games from the fifth seed or whatever it was. So
Yeah.
availability. So I don't know. Do you think, and a lot of people were talking about Pat Riley seem like he's back, he's more cutthroat, he's more frank and blunt and forward. Like, has Miami Heat culture become a little soft in terms of like allowing players to rest with load management? And like, I know that's the culture of the NBA. I'm the senior citizen of the group, David. So
Yeah.
80s, 90s basketball, you could look at almost any player, Isaiah Thomas, Patrick Ewing, Zoe, John Stockton, Jordan. They played 82, 8 to 10 times. Like they were Iron Men back then. Like I even looked at Grant Hill, who was
Mm.
his career, someone that's close to Jimmy, kind of, that like 6'7", small forward, kind of a similar game to a certain degree. His career derailed by injuries, but he played 38 games in 4 seasons, guys, for the younger folks here who didn't realize that. But he got traded from Orlando to Phoenix, age 35 to 38, 82, 81, 80 games. Like, how is he able to play 80 games after his career was derailed? And Jimmy and other players in general across the NBA aren't able to do that. So, like, how can we become more available? Like, can we go back to the old Heat culture where we like force players to play at 70% or more? Because Pat even said it. He's like, no one's ever 100%. Like, giving awards for playing 65 games
Yeah.
means you can miss 17 games theoretically. So, what are your thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
No, I mean, I agree. I feel like that is kind of a, endemic of the whole league, as you pointed out. Like there are a lot of players that feel like load managing is more important to them. And we're starting to see, conversely, you're starting to see more longevity too. So I think that's the idea, is like you can be an NBA player for a lot longer if you wind up taking games off during the course of the earlier portions of your career. So I'm curious to see how that all plays out over the next 20, 30 years, whether or not we see players have longer careers, more typical, like, LeBron James and things of that sort. Like he's a very, very strange, unique case, obviously, but I wonder if we're going to start to see more players that are playing well in their mid 30s. We don't see it right now, but it could be the change that happens over the next few years. As far as whether or not they can get players more available this upcoming season, he talked about wide sweeping analysis of everything they do, not just the training staff and everything else like that, but maybe it's just roster changes. Like, again, like I said, they need somebody who's going to be your top scorer, who can be your go-to bucket getter, to make things so much easier, so that you don't have to work so hard on every possession just to generate a bad look from Haywood Highsmith in the corner or something like that. That you need something a little bit more consistent. That's why they went after Dame Lillard last year. That's why they've gone after Kevin Durant and everybody else. So they're trying. Excuse me for a second. I got a cough. Sorry about that.
No worries.
So they're trying to make these changes, and I don't know exactly how they can go about doing it. I mean, you could have UD in the locker room, and he can basically just yell at you and say, don't be, get out there and play. But I don't know if that's something that's realistic either. So they're going to try to. I think they can work some kind of incentives into Jimmy's contract where he winds up playing a certain number of games, and maybe that's the kind of balance that they'll find. Getting him to play a certain number of games per season. If he meets those, that's how he gets a certain amount of money. Maybe that's one way of doing it. But you look at Tyler, like, I mean, he was actually hurt. And he at 24, 25, like, he does seem fragile, as Pat Riley called it. So I'm not sure what they can do, but I do think it's something that's much more league wide. And I don't know that there are any kind of immediate changes. I think you talk to old heads, and they'll say, you know what, just go out and play through it. You get these little injuries over the course of a year. It's no big deal. And maybe young guys nowadays are soft, but at the same time, I think they're trying to preserve their career so that they can have longer, more extensive playing days. I don't know how it works out, and I don't know how Miami can find that balance next year, but obviously it's a priority. They need to find somebody who can take away some of the load offensively, maybe get an actual big in there, like a 7-footer, so that, you don't have Bam being undersized and going up against centers and running around all over the court, which adds to certain wear and tear. Like, he's going to the Olympics this year. Like that's going to add more playing time. And I know these guys play and train during the offseason anyway, but between the travel and everything else like that, now we're talking about a guy who's already missed games this year. He's going to have this full-time summer commitment. Is he going to be healthy for a full 82 games next year? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think, I mean, we could probably already guess that Bam's going to miss sometime next year just because that's the norm when players commit to these offseason regimens. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Well, David, thank you so much for hopping on and joining us today for this episode. We really appreciate it. We're all fans of the Locked On Heat YouTube channel and podcast, so I'm sure everybody that's following us does follow you guys. But if not, go to Locked On Heat on YouTube, subscribe to their channel, follow their podcast. Really appreciate it. Is there anywhere else you want to let the audience know where they can find you?
No, that's it. You can go on YouTube, anywhere you get podcasts, and we're there. So we'll be providing content all summer long. We'll be in Las Vegas for Summer League, and we'll see how it plays out in the draft and everything else in free agency. Last year, obviously, we had a big summer and it didn't pan out, but we'll see if Miami can make some moves this offseason. I'm not optimistic, but you never know. You never count out Pat Riley 100%.
No way.
Thank you again. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks again. Take care, David.
Take care.